Hi, I'm Jonathan Amy, and we're so happy to be here with Alison Moors Lipshin. She's going to be talking about precision teaching in an inclusive classroom. And I'm really looking forward to this presentation, so take it away, Allie.
Thanks, Jonathan. I prepared a PowerPoint presentation to keep me within 10 minutes. Otherwise, I'll just ramble on for long periods of time. So I am a 25-year plus precision teaching enthusiast, and I'm also the founder of an inclusion school in the Seattle area. And many times over the past 13 or so years that the school has been open, we run up against either resistance or questions or inquiries, or just kind of like, how do you do precision teaching in an inclusive classroom? Because what we're really doing is universal design. We're making sure that all the students in our classroom are on or above grade level or approaching grade level with their skill sets. And so this is kind of my take on how I use precision teaching in an inclusive classroom, and hopefully this is helpful. So the first thing I want to mention, that I just want to get this out there, that to me inclusion is not geography. It's not just placing a student with some sort of a disability or a 504 plan or an IEP or some other thing other than general education. Just because that student is in a classroom in a seat next to their non-disabled peers does not mean that it's an inclusive classroom, right? It's very intentional in the environmental sense of what that classroom does successfully. Inclusion is an intention. So this is kind of how I approach that intention. So there's some colleagues of mine at the University of Washington, and much work from inclusion is out of the University of Washington. And there was a book chapter in 2015, and I really appreciate the way that they separated out the repertoire areas for the classroom environment in order to make sure that it's as successful as an inclusion classroom as possible. And typically people think about skills only, like, are they on grade level in math? Is the student ready to do the reading lesson? Those types of things. But the way that I approach it is a framework that includes skill building, of course, relationship building, and membership building. And I'll go into those a little bit. Before I go into that specifically, I want to make sure that precision teachers are kind of given the due props of component composite analysis. So precision measurement, precision teaching, precision anything that requires pinpointing forces us as the practitioners to look at what are components of behavior and what are the composites that the components add up to. So component composite analysis is a hallmark in the applied behavior analysis community, and precision teachers are exemplary at applying that behavior analytic technique to precision measurement, precision teaching, and classroom experiences. So when I'm talking about components, I'm talking about parts of skills, elements of skills, the tools needed to be successful in doing a skill, the links that link together to create a skill, and the building blocks that lead up to skills. And we can also talk about pinpoints. But pinpoints can also be composite skills or composite behaviors. And we're talking about whole behavior chains together, compound chains, repertoire areas, or chains of behavior. So I just want to make sure I get that out there so we're all kind of thinking about the same terminology as we go. So this is where precision measurement thrives, is in the pinpointing. So if you look at these three sections together, I'll kind of just introduce my approach for how to use precision measurement, precision teaching within a successful inclusion environment. The first thing that most everybody can agree with is the skills. So this area within an inclusive framework is including the outcomes related to academic skills, social communicative skills, and functional skills. So this is typically what teachers would consider the general education, the curricular sequences that they go through, the relationship or the skills that the general education students or the majority of the students possess as far as social communication skills. And you'll think a lot about this in developmental frameworks. So kindergarten skills are completely different than 7th grade skills. As far as academic, their social skills and their functional skills, right? So some examples of this would include knowledge of math facts, history facts, job-related skills, interview skills, and the application of social skills in the correct context. So if the student doesn't have the skills, they are really not going to be able to use those skills within an inclusive environment, right? So teaching them the skills is really the hallmark of what we try to do as precision teachers. What I love about the standard acceleration family of charts is that any one of these component skills can show up as a component skill chart, standard acceleration chart, as well as a composite standard acceleration chart. So I just have a couple of examples here. So you see here that this student, the component skill they're working on is say words in head sprout. So that is a component skill for reading. Sounding out words, saying sight words, that's how you can read faster and get your oral reading fluency skills in paragraph reading or in prose reading higher, right? Very straightforward. Now you've also got weekly per week charts where you can actually track the student on a curriculum-based measurement probe, which is a general education standard for, in this example here, it's for math. So precision teachers don't necessarily have to do timings in order to have a standard acceleration graph represent their inclusive skill building, but you can also do a weekly per week summary graph here, or a weekly per week graph where you're showing curriculum-based measurement probing, right? So once a week probing, that's it. But then you've also got a monthly per month chart. So here's a student who has receptive labels. So what we would consider a hear touch or a hear say or a hear do. So this particular student has been working on this for a number of years, right? And so what you can look at right here is the phase changes for each, let's just call these instructional methodologies. And when did that skill start taking off? Well, it was right here in this phase change. Isn't this beautiful that across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years of academic intervention, we can see what was actually working. Another great use of a standard acceleration chart. So moving on, we've got the skills, which are pretty straightforward for most people who understand precision teaching and skill building, but now we have relationship skills. Again, another framework for successful inclusion is giving, and you don't see this as being hierarchical, you see this as being cyclical. So all of these all of these framework pieces fit in together and are constantly joining and combining to make successful inclusion opportunities for students. So you have relationship as your next framework. So this area includes outcomes related to personal relationships that a student learns to from throughout his or her life. I think that's a typo. Excuse my quick PowerPoint slide here. So according to the researchers of this particular framework, there's 4 types of relationships. There's the companion. Do these students have friends or bus partners? And what I want to establish here with the things that are not skill-based is if you don't put as much intention and you're not expecting and inspecting relationships and the membership section of this with as much rigor and outcomes-based approach, data-based decision-making as skills, you're not going to have a successful inclusive environment, right? So getting back to 4 types of relationships, we have companion relationships, we have giver relationships. So are all students showing each other and helping each other? So an example would be showing a peer where to write his name. There's receiver relationships. So are you accepting the peer passing out your lunchbox? Well, if you're a student with a disability or a student with an English language learner repertoire that you are outside of your norm in this classroom, are you able to give relationships to kids and are you able to receive relationships from kids? And how are you with conflict? Are you always wanting the same computer game? Do you have some rigid ideas of what your classroom needs to, your classroom environment needs to be for you? How conflictual are you in your relationships constantly, right? So I just have a couple of ways that I've put those types of relationship skills on standard acceleration charts. This one right here is conversation volleys with a peer. So that would lend into this companionship relationship, but also giver and receiver. A conversation is a giver and a receiver. And it could be a giver and a receiver from the head teacher to all of the students, or in between students, or from the student back to their teacher. So here I have conversation volleys with a peer. And this is a daily per minute chart. And here you'll see that there are independent volleys and there are prompted volleys. And each one of those is in the relationship to a peer. And we're tracking that on a standard acceleration chart. We have recess data. So this may be a little bit out of the norm of what you normally see on a daily per minute chart, but each timing interval is a 20-minute recess break. So what you'll notice here is that our particular classroom, our younger grade classrooms, have 3 20-minute recess blocks. So I added those up to be a 1-hour timing interval within the school day. So all 3 blocks are added up into this 1 hour. And it's basically how often was the student engaged at recess. So again, companionship and conflictual wanting the same computer game. So if you only have 1 tire swing at recess and your student that you're tracking the behavior of being part of the relationship of the peers at recess, if there's only 1 opportunity for you to access your tire swing, your data for recess engagement is not going to look all that robust, right? So your relationship within your peers at recess is something that your practitioner might want to look at. So again, the third section here is membership. We covered skills, relationship, and now we're talking about membership. So this one is one, you call them soft skills, but if you ever do a social validity measure or some sort of an outgoing survey, parent satisfaction survey, student satisfaction survey, even if you're into organizational behavior management, if you have intake or exit interviews with staff members, and you're talking about membership. And many times what you look at from a social validity standpoint is how happy that person is from a quality of life perspective. Well, those are pinpointable skill sets. So membership, according to an inclusive framework that I hold near and dear, this area includes outcomes related to a child's sense of membership within a group of individuals, within a classroom, a community, or social network. Some examples include being part of a multiple friend group, being included in community activities, belonging to a friend clique, or membership within a club or community activity. So many times the older students get who are benefiting from inclusive environments, the older they get, they stop enjoying those environments because there's a lack of membership. And membership is an intentionality, and it is a skill just like anything else that practitioners should provide in order to have an inclusive environment. So I just put some kind of component composite skill frameworks here that I would consider putting on stand acceleration charts. So if you have a class job, that means you're a member of that classroom community. But if you don't have the motor skills to do that class job, then that's something that you can work on in a fluency-based or precision measurement system. If you want to follow a task list, if you can't follow a task list fluently and effortlessly and with accuracy, you're not able to do a multi-step class job, right? So again, membership is a role in the school play. So all students can have a role in the school play, but many times I'll go with, you know, maybe some private clients of mine on the autism spectrum, and I'll go to their school play and they're not actively engaged, they're just standing on stage. So again, inclusion is not geography. Just because the student is standing on stage does not mean that they hold membership skills to that activity inclusively. So a role in the school play, can they read the script? Can they follow the directions, written directions of the script? Can they follow stage directions in the script? Can they follow the directions of the director in person during the play practice? Can they respond to peers? So if I'm tree number 4 and we're in a forest scene and tree number 3 said their lines, if I'm not responding to the peer in the order, in the sequence of the play, then that is a component skill we can work on, with the composite being membership in the school play. And again, play dates with friends. These are a huge host of pragmatic language skill deficits for many kids who are included as special education inclusion in the general ed setting. Pragmatic language skills and conversation skills. Those are things that you can work on direct skill building of fluent conversation skills or fluent pragmatic language skills. And then what you can do is judge those skills on a probative measure during play dates. So here is a social component skill, and this is something that you can do in one-on-one instruction. So it's a daily per minute, and it's you can see it's a 30-second timing. And the pinpoint we're looking at here is, here a situation, say what number you are. And this is on a 5-point scale system. So 1 is calm and 5 is out of control. So if the situation is, I am let's see, I'm on a play date with my friend and my friend doesn't want to play Minecraft and I do. Well, all of a sudden I'm triggered, so I'm a number 2, or I'm agitated, so I'm a number 3. So in our social emotional development curriculum, in our inclusive classrooms, we use a 1 through 5 scale. So what we're doing is pointing out to the student, out of context of climbing up that number 5 scale where 5 is out of control. If I tell them a situation and they can identify what number they are, when they're in that situation, they can identify a solution or a plan for not being that heightened anxiety number. So the quicker you can identify what number you are in the situation that I'm describing, the quicker you can then decide a plan to get you out of that anxiety-prone situation. And now a play date's going to go much easier. Thank you. Was that even 10 minutes? I don't even know. So anyway, you can probably find me through all different various channels of the Standard Acceleration Society online. I welcome any emails or any questions you might have. And anytime that I can talk about precision teaching within inclusive environments, the happier I am. So thank you.
Allie, I've always learned so much from your presentations over these many years, and this was no different. This was absolutely terrific. Thank you so much, Allie. Thank you.
Thank you.